Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and back to episode 15 on the MK1 TT. So we've got a bit of an issue where we're getting zero fuel readout. Let's get started up. So the fuel needle is reading 0. Oh, I need to put some washer fluid in. But if we also flick through, oh, it's reading 10 miles at the moment. But I've had an issue where both of these have been reading 0. And I know there's roughly around about just under half a tank of fuel in there. There we go, and it's popped up now, look. See what it's just done there? And then as we drive, that 10 miles will then become whatever, how many miles that is on there as we go. So I've not been able to drive the car because I roughly know how much fuel's in there, but I don't want to risk it. And the needle's now dropped back down to 0 as soon as I stopped filming that last video. So I think it's the fuel level sensors that sit in the fuel tanks that we've got to sort out. So I've been and bought myself some contact cleaner. We're going to strip the fuel pumps out, well, the fuel pump and the other sender on the other side. Give the contacts a good clean up and see if that solves the issue. If not, then the other issue could be it's the cluster, and it could be their motor failure on that needle there. By which case then we're going to have to get the clusters stripped out and get them repaired. But anyway, I'm hoping it's the fuel level senders that are the issue here. I think they are. That's been my suspicion all along. Let's try ripping them out and see if we can get them cleaned up. I'm so happy to announce that this video today is brought to you by our new channel sponsor and partner, Reformer Vans. Now these guys are the best in the business and they're a family run company when it comes to converting VW campers and other manufacturers as well. But if you've got a camper that you want converting or modernising or pimping up, go check these guys out. They'll sort you right out. In fact, why not pop down and check out their new showroom on the outskirts of Hinckley this Saturday, which they're opening. So here we have a replacement fuel level sender unit. So this sits in the passenger side access port to the tank, because there's 2 on my 225 Quattro. So if you have a Quattro, there'll be 2. If you don't, there'll be 1. So this connects to the main fuel pump on the driver's side via means of this connector and these pipes. So this will then be used to draw the fuel through from the secondary side of the tank to the primary side of the tank as and when required. But obviously, I think it takes an average of the 2 level sensor readings, and obviously that float goes up and down and then moves that sensor across that strip there. So I think what we've got to do is get the contact cleaner, get the other units out of the tank and give that part a clean up and hope that it starts reading accurate readings. So in order to gain access to the ports on top of the fuel tanks, we've got to remove this rear main bench. So just grab it underneath and lift it up. And that should start to come away like that. So that bench has now been removed. We can see we've got 2 access hatches here, both with fillet screws in. That one there and that one there. This is where the primary fuel pump lives, and that has a float level sensor on that one. And that's where the secondary kind of counterbalance pump sits over there. Well, this is the only pump that draws fuel from that side by means of that contraption I've just shown you. So I'm going to get a fillet screwdriver and drop these panels off and we'll have a look see what's underneath. So that's the first panel off, just comes off with 3 screws. And on here we have our connector for the fuel, for the actual fuel pump itself. And that's got obviously the power, ground, and also the signal wires coming back from the level sensor, which go back to the ECU. We've also got a flow and return pipe here, which we need to pop off. Now, we also need to clean this out in here as well, stop any debris going into the tank. But we're going to pop that one off the other side quickly and give that a quick look as well. Access panel's off, that's also revealed that one there. So we need to get a flat blade screwdriver and a hammer and just twist that lock nut off, the big plastic one around the outside. But first off, we're going to give this cavity a good clean out, make sure we don't get any contamination of the fuel. And then pull that out and take a look. Now this should be exactly the same as the part that I showed you a minute ago, and we'll pull it out and see if we can clean that contact up. So I've given that a good brake clean and just got a rag in there and give it a good rub round. So watch your fingers on the rough metal edge because it is quite sharp if you try and get something down there to clean it. So now I'm going to get the chisel on it and hammer and knock it anti-clockwise, get that out, a ring undone, and then we'll pull the workings out and see what we've got to play with. Oh, you can smell the fuel already. Right, so I've knocked this seal ring out. If we lift that, well, you can see there's quite a bit of fuel in the tank already. So anyway, I'm going to get this out and get it into a bowl so we can work on it and get about cleaning it up. Because I'm quite conscientious and I don't really fancy cleaning the molten mess up off my drive, I've disconnected the negative terminal on the battery as well, just so there's definitely no power going to that fuel system. Don't want to cause any sparks or anything while I've got the fuel caps open. Okay, so what we've done is just pulled that out and I've sprayed some contact cleaner just kind of all over the electrical contact part, some there, and just make sure this float comfortably moves. There's no damage to the actual float itself, so that's not retaining fuel, so it isn't. And we'll just give this a good clean off. Could just be, see there, a little bit of dirt. Could be a bit of varnish built up on it. Now, if this doesn't work, what I can do is pull this back out and we can probe these wires coming off it here and check that the resistance alters as that float kind of goes up and down. So, but first we'll just try cleaning it and putting it back and see if that does the trick. So that's that side all back together and cleaned up. I've refitted that ground cable as well. Make sure that all went back as it was. It might be worth actually thinking about it, kind of marking the ring and the top of the fuel pump, which I'll do on the next one, just to make sure we retighten it back to kind of how it was before. But I've done it as tight as I can, so that should be fine. Right, on to the next side. So we've managed to get the connector off, although it's pretty beat up. I'm gonna have to repin a new connector for that because somebody's been here before. Look how brittle that is, look. So anyway, we'll sort that out. We've now got to get the supply and return pipes off for the fuel. The easiest way of getting them off is by depressing the end of the connector like that and just pulling them out. You might have a little bit of pressure left in these. That one hadn't, but this one may have. Yep, there we go. So watch your eyes and get something ready just to clean up any residual fuel. Smells beautiful. There we go. That was just pressure that's built up from the last time the pump was cycled, which was not long ago. But anyway, a bit of fuel's good to get all the muck cleaned off the top. Can't beat a bit of petrol to clean stuff up. So, sorted. Now I need to do my tappy trick to get this undone. See that? I'll try and do it there so you can get a better view. You see that ring starting to tap off. Be very, very careful when you start to untwist this ring, because if you get your hands in there, this metal's very, very sharp. It's like a razor blade. It's just going to cut you straight away. Now another trick for these, which worked for me for a while, is if you've got a sticking sender unit, you can actually tap top of the fuel pump with a hammer on that bit there, and sometimes that frees up a stuck float. But obviously that's not our issue in this case. I think it's probably more a bit of coincidence than it actually fixing the problem. Okay, so that's now starting to turn by hand. As I say, be very careful you don't cut yourself. Ideally a pair of gloves would be good for this. And just by the pressure of the fuel on the pump there, look. That's pushing the pump up out of the tank. Okay. Right, if we very, very carefully start to pull this unit out, because it's already come apart inside the tank. There we go. Pull that top piece off out with the spring there, and very, very gently start to lift this pump out. It's easier said than done. Let's just get the shirt and clean these spillage up. Right, so we're going to have to disconnect some of these connectors, I think, in order to get this out. So there's that one there. There's that. Connector there, which is for the sender from the other side of the tank. Let's see what else we've got. Off two. Okay, what we can do rather than take the pump out is tilt it up like that, get him some contact cleaner and clean it there. That's the easiest way of doing it. Okay, so with a bit of fighting, we managed to get the pump back in, get all the connectors and pipes reconnected, get that ring tightened back up. And you have to make sure the rubber seal. So just before you pop the ring on, there's a rubber seal. Make sure you sit that in the neck of the fuel tank first before you even try and tighten that ring, otherwise it's just going to screw it up. I've got to do something with this connector, get a new one, repin it, something like that, sort that out. I've got them back on. Let's rehook the battery and see whether they get a proper reading. Just clean up any residual fuel spill, and away we go. Okay, now just before, I've just reconnected the battery, but just before we start it, I just want to get the keys in, prime the fuel pump, make sure there's no leaks. You can hear that pump priming up there. No leaks at all, and if we have a look at the dash, you can see that there. We've got a proper reading now on the fuel gauge. So I'm going to get that cover back on and give it a start and see how we go. So that's all back on. Here goes nothing. It's nice and knowing you guys. Thanks for subscribing, thanks for your support. I'll see you on the other side. Well, and we're running, and the gauge is fixed. Now let's overrule that. 105 miles. So we're getting the correct readout now on the digital display as well. Whew, I'm so glad that worked. I know a couple of you guys, certainly on Facebook, were waiting for these videos to come out, so I've tried to keep it as concise as possible to get things moving, so you guys can get yours done too. I'm so glad that worked actually, because I didn't really have to take that pump out, strip it down, because it was a bit of an arse trying to get the pump out of the hole. But you don't need to anyway. Like I say, just tip it forwards, you'll be able to get to the contacts that you need to clean on the level sensor anyway. But I think it's just a case of, you know, we're talking about a 20-odd-year-old car now, and obviously varnish is built up on the contacts, it's not measuring the resistance correctly. So yeah, get yourself some contact cleaner, guys. don't use brake clean because it dissolves plastic and it will actually damage the sensor and you'll end up replacing the whole thing. Get to like and subscribe, and obviously share the video far and wide if you can. The more subscribers we get, I mean, we've come up to 1,300 subscribers in just over a year, so I think we're making great progress. But yeah, if you can share the video, that'd be much appreciated. Got some really exciting content coming up. It's a bit of a lull at the minute. You'll notice there's not many videos being posted. I've got a whole host of stuff being reworked across the channel, including new branding and new graphics and everything else. So watch this space, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.